Oma Gyana Timinandasha Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshunumilitamina Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So in the last passage, Krishna was emphasizing the enlightenment of the Karma Yogi. In the first passage of this chapter, he, although saying that the path of renunciation of work and the path of engagement in work is the same because they lead to the same goal, he esteemed the path of Karma Yoga, calling the person the same as the Jnani because he has the same inner renunciation as the person who renounces work. But his position is safer and it's happier because he can engage the senses. And it also involves Gyan. So in the last passage which we discussed, he was discussing the enlightenment of such a person. And there was a lot of emphasis on that enlightenment in terms of doership. Basically, he doesn't see himself as an agent in this world because he sees that the soul is existing ontologically different from matter. That was the diagram over there. Anyway, I had drawn a diagram to it. Twice it was there, so now I'm just doing it. So he doesn't see himself as an agent in this world, which is how we normally think. In terms of accomplishing our various goals, we feel that we are the agent. Everything depends upon us. And when things don't go our way, then it's someone else's fault. That's usually the psychology. We feel ourselves to be agents. We try for enjoyment in this world. And of course, if it goes well, then we're responsible for that. And if it doesn't go well, then someone else is responsible for that. Either someone in the environment is responsible, someone in the environment, and ultimately it can go up to God. So Krishna referred to this in the previous passage. This is the way of ignorance. Actually, if we were really in control of our destiny, then we would not impose suffering upon ourselves. If we had the power to control that, that's obvious. So the very fact that suffering is imposed upon us is an indicator that we're not really the agent. Just by meditating on that point, how suffering is imposed upon us, even on a day-to-day basis, what to speak of like ultimate suffering in terms of disease and death and so on. But just on a day-to-day basis, so much suffering is coming that if you were really in control, you would not put yourself through at all. The sort of trouble that you get at the workplace or stubbing your toe, for example, is something as small as stubbing your toe. If we were really so much in control, then we wouldn't do that to ourselves. So just by meditating on that point, that we're not even we're not in control of the suffering which comes to us, which is imposed upon us. So the Vedic rishis and seers, they say that is also true for happiness. Just as suffering is imposed upon you, happiness is also imposed upon you. That's kind of interesting meditation. So whatever happiness one is able to experience in this life, that is also an imposition by nature that is coming. So the enlightened person doesn't see himself as an agent in this world. He sees that the world is acting according to different forces. There are different forces that govern the world, and he's apart from that world. So the person who's conditioned doesn't think like that. Again, he thinks I'm an agent, especially when things are going well. If things are not going well, it's someone else's fault. In that way, his mind is always oscillating in this, trying to control for happiness or being disturbed by the environment when things aren't going his way. So Krishna says this is called ignorance. And of course, it is that ignorance that keeps us bound in the world. So in verses 16 to the end of the chapter, basically, he's speaking about the inner life of such an enlightened person. By first contrasting this enlightened person with this last person we're talking about, the person who's in ignorance, thinking themselves a controller or an agent in this world, and thus oscillating between happiness and distress because of their sense of being a product of the world, an agent in the world. So he contrasts, and this is verse number 16, very nice verse. Gyanena tutar agnanam yesham nashitam atmana tesham adityavaj jnanam prakashayati tatpanam. So Krishna says two. The word two means but. So I always mention this, but means something that's categorically different from what was just discussed. Just like I say, I like your style, but. So whatever I say after the but is in another category than what I just said. A different sort of point is coming. So two, the word but here is to contrast the person Krishna is about to talk about with the person in ignorance that we just heard about in the previous verse. So but two, Gyanena tutat agyanam yesham ashitamatmana. So those whose ignorance is destroyed by that knowledge. Tat Gyanam. The word Tat Gyanam means that knowledge. Acharyas are commenting that knowledge that you receive from enlightened persons. That's known. We heard about this earlier in chapter 4 when we heard Pranipatena. What is that? Tavidi Pranipatena Paripashana Sevaya. That one should try to approach your guru and surrender and inquire and render service. So if you do that, you get spiritual knowledge. So when that spiritual knowledge destroys the ignorance that causes one to be submerged in the bhava of being agent, we're obviously moving around in the world and doing things, but the enlightened person doesn't have that bhava that I'm really the doer of things. He doesn't get into it. It's just like, for example, when I play ping pong, I'm not even that good, but I have the bhava of a competitor, right? I have that bhava. So that bhava allows me to really get submerged into the game. Even though I'm not that good, I'm decent though. I'm not saying I'm bad, but I'm not that good. So when I'm hitting, because I have the bhava of an actual ping pong player when I'm playing, I like merge into that bhava. That really causes my identification with the game. So I get really bent out of shape if I'm losing. You know, if I get a shot that I know I should have got and I would have won and I miss it, like, you know, I don't sound the paddle because I already broke to me like that, but I almost want to, because of that bhava. But sometimes you can play without that bhava also. You're just connecting with a friend and you're just playing to have fun. Just like sometimes you see people go on dates and they go for ping pong. It's just like, it's very frustrating when you want to play and like have a real game and see people like on dates having like those little cute games, but they don't have the bhava of a competitor. So although they're technically playing, they're very removed from the game itself because they don't have the bhava that causes that deep identification with the game. So the enlightened person also moves around the world, but he doesn't have the bhava that I'm an agent. Yasya ahankrita bhava. Krishna speaks about this, and later on in Gita, the person is without the ahankrita bhava, which means the bhava of the ego, that bhava, I am the doer. So when that ignorance is destroyed by hearing from a guru, that ignorance that I'm the agent, I'm the doer, and so on, that bhava, when that is destroyed by that knowledge that one gets from the guru, that you are actually existing apart from this world, then Krishna says, Tesham aditya vaj jnanam prakashayati tatparam. Then their knowledge, the knowledge of the person who's received it from the guru, their knowledge, aditya vaj, like the sun, prakashati, it reveals or illumines the tatparam. It illumines or reveals the tatparam, that which is param, that which is transcendent. So that can refer to the soul and ultimately can refer to God. So we have the problem that we think we are an agent in this world, but if you hear from the teacher and the bhava is removed, that I'm an agent in this world, then that knowledge that you receive from the teacher like the sun illumines what is the truth. What is the truth that is transcending this world? So this is this verse, very nice. So what happens next? Tat budayas tat atmanas tat nishtas tat parayanaha. Gachantya puna avritam jnana nirdhuta kalmasha. So tat budayas tat atmanas means his intelligence, his mind is given over to that reality. Tanishta, his dedication, his ultimate purpose is fixed in that. Tat parayanaha, his refuge is in that. Again, that can refer to the awareness of the soul, or can ultimately, our acharyas say ultimately refers to the awareness of this Godhead. It is given over to that. So unfortunately, when we hear from the guru, our buddhi and mind and nishta and refuge does not go to that. We hear the class, it's like, that was a nice class, Aru, and then our intelligence, our mind, our dedication is still surrendered over to something that is not that, but is not what we've heard from the spiritual teacher, isn't it? If you can even remember what was said in the class, that is also an extraordinary thing. If you remember what is said in the class, then still our mind does not go to that. But here, if you're really getting the knowledge and practice from Guru, then your intelligence goes to that. You're always contemplating that reality. Ta atmanas, thinking about that reality. Ta nishtas, fixed in that reality. Ta parayana, finding your refuge or surrender in that reality. Then for that person, gachanti apunar avritam, he goes to the place of liberation. He becomes liberated. Naturally, following the statement that Krishna will later on say, what is that? Nyam nyam vapi smanam bhavam tyanjante kalevanam. Nyam nyam vapi smanam bhavam. Again, this bhavam word is coming. So whatever bhavam you remember, so what bhava you are remembering, then that bhava you'll attain without fail. Isn't it? This is the example is given in the Bhagavatam of a wasp who cornered was it like a bee or something? A wasp that cornered the bee, and the bee was so much. A wasp is bigger than a bee, right? Would a bee be scared of a wasp? Anyway, I don't remember the exact. Anyway, I think it's a wasp is corner a bee in like a corner. And he's about to die, and so the bee is so much in fear, contemplating the wasp, that he becomes a wasp in the next life. So there's a principle. Whatever you're thinking of profoundly, then that state you'll attain without fail. So what bhava do you have? What bhava are you remembering? If we were going to die tomorrow, what would be the bhava? I'll be very concerned. I remember once I was with Jai Giridhari. This is many, many years ago. And we were at Harinam at Washington Square Park. And it was very late. And some people were talking to us afterwards and asking us many questions. So someone asked us, well, are you scared of death? And Jai Giridhari gave an answer, very nice answer, very devotional, spiritual answer. He said, no, we are not afraid of death because by serving Krishna, we know what is our destination. Something like very beautiful like that. I was like, hold on, slow down. Speak for yourself, bro. I ain't got that yet purified yet. I need to live a little bit longer so I can at least make it to about a Nartha stage, purify my consciousness a little bit more. If we were to die with our present bhavam, then our destination may be a little concerning. Just a little. But for these persons, their mind, their intellect, their dedication, their fixity is given over to that reality which they've received from Guru. So at death, they go to that place of liberation. Jnana nirdhuta kamasaha, having been purified of all tincture by that knowledge received by the Guru. This ultimately means devotion because Krishna says later on in Gita, Daivhyesha gunamayi, mama maya darataya, tam eva ye prapadnyante mayami tam tananti. If you want to actually get out of the material world and attain liberation, you have to worship him. So many of our acharyas comment that this tat means that, and is usually a pronoun that refers to the spiritual reality, but it's very generic, so you don't know what exactly they're always talking about. But our acharyas say tat means Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord, because only by worshiping him can you actually get out of the modes of material nature. So that is again in Nirdhuta Kamasa that is specifically mentioned in this particular verse. So if you, what is the next verse is a very famous verse. What is the character of such a person who is thus purified of all tincture? So they see with equal vision. Vidya Vinaya Sampane, Brahmini Gavi Hastini Shuni Chaiva Shrapakecha Pandita Samadarshana. This is a very famous verse. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. So they have the vision of equality, but it is not the mundane vision of equality. Like in the material world, everyone is always clamoring for equality. That is a very popular notion. And they have a term for it also, egalitarianism. We are all men are created equal. I'm like, nah, bro, I'm looking at all the men in this room. And all the men in this room aren't created equal, what to speak of the world. That is the sense that all men are created equal is actually a spiritual insight. It is not a material fact. Materially, there's no question of equality. You have to be careful giving examples in New York. But anyway, we're amongst devotees now. Someone is fat, someone is skinny. That is a difference. Someone is very beautiful. You follow them on Instagram, even though you don't know them, isn't it? And someone is ugly, you unfollow them. Because you don't like the way they look. Someone smells very nice because they use nice whatever. And some are like on the train, they smell very bad. And sometimes it's amazing how if a bad smell is there, it could really turn your whole mood around. You ever got on the train, the smell was so bad, you just became angry? So where is the equality in this world? Someone is rich, someone is poor, someone is this race, someone is another race. And even within the races, there may be characteristics that kind of characterize a particular demographic also, even in terms of strength, in terms of intelligence, everything. People feel very uncomfortable with these sorts of notions today. They think that no, if we all had the same training, then we will see that everyone would, achieve in the same way. I'm like, nah. I went to middle school. We all had the same teachers, had the same exact training, but a certain demographic, when it came to like math and history, they just couldn't perform very well. And they perform very well in gym. and vice versa, because that is the nature of the material world. So the equality is never a material fact. That is impossible to establish materially. Equality is a spiritual insight, because this person is Jnana Nirdhuta Kamasha. He's been purified of all tincture by the Gyan received by Guru. So his mind is fixed in the reality that is beyond the world of duality. So he has seen the soul beyond this world of duality. He has seen God, who is existing in the hearts of all beings beyond the world of duality. So when it says he sees equally, that means he can see that soul, he can see that Paramatma. And that is a vision of equality he's fixed in. Therefore, he will not embrace a lion. Although he is seeing soul is there, he says that soul is in a lion's body. I'll keep distance. Similarly, that soul is in a certain demographic. I might have to keep a safe distance also. Of course, unless you're very, very advanced. You would think like that, some discernment is there. But he is able to see that the soul is existing transcendent to the body. And therefore, the soul's dignity is not augmented or decreased by its connection with the body, right? So and I say this is interesting when you look at the world of politics, where people, on the one hand, they cheer for the downtrodden, and with this sort of false sense of equality, but they hate someone like Donald Trump. So this is the proof that they're not fixing equality, equal vision. Otherwise, why are you cheering for the downtrodden and not cheering for Trump? You should also cheer for Trump. Cheer for the soul in Trump's body, that is to say. He is also equal to all the other souls in any other body. So why are you cheering for this one and not cheering for Trump? I see it amongst our devotees also. They will post many things about with so much like vengeance. But why are you not cheering for him? You should cheer for him also. He is just a soul in another body that is being implicated in nature in one way. And these are souls in other bodies being implicated by nature in another way. But if you're fixed like this enlightened Gyan Karma Yogi is fixed, then you see that the soul, even in the Trump body doing all sorts of crazy things, his dignity is actually not diminished because of that. The soul's dignity, that is. Because the soul's dignity is existing ontologically different from matter. You understand? So therefore, you can see someone like a Prahlad Maharaj. We're presently reading about Prahlad Maharaj in the morning classes. Prahlad Maharaj is able to have favorable feelings towards his father, right? Our fathers just don't pick us up from the airport and they can go to hell for the rest of it. We don't want to have anything to do with them, My father left at single family home. My mom and dad separated when I was 5. And I only saw him literally maybe 4 times since then. I'm 34 now, 5. So maybe 4 times I've seen him. And I remember seeing him when I was like 16 or 17. And he and my brother and I were with him. And I remember him saying something like, we would call him Chuck because his name is Charles. We would call him Chuck. And it's like, that's not my name. And we're like, what? What's your name then? Father. So I was like, all right, let's get out of here. We got out of the car and just walked away. Because we're so hurt by the childhood trauma of you leaving us for so many years and not caring. You know what I had to go through because I didn't have a father? We get all like traumatized because we got daddy issues and so on. Prahlad's dad was trying to kill him. Not one or two times. Thousands of times we tried to murder him. Can you imagine? Your dad throws you off the top of a mountain. I joked about this one of my other classes. You're like struggling, like, Dad, don't do it. And he's like, ah! And throws you off the mountain. He's like, he's like enjoying. And then you come back to the house later, having survived, a 20,000 foot or whatever, however high it was, and he's unhappy to see you. Can you imagine the trauma? So still Prahlad Maharaj had no feelings of animosity towards his father. How is that possible? That's incredible. I mean, it's mind-baffling to consider how he had because he's situated in the vision of equality. He does not think that the soul's dignity is decreased because of being implicated in the body of a Hiranyakashipu. Still, the soul has its intrinsic nature, and if it can be realized, then it can be free from this bondage of bodies. Of course, in Prahlad Maharaj's case, he tries to help such a soul. If we were situated in such a vision, we may see that, but keep a safe distance. That is, Hiranyakashipu is kind of crazy. It's a little bit above my level to help. So this Pandit person is Samadarshina. He sees at this level of equality. This level of equality can't even be faked. Even if you try, it's impossible. Dealing with someone like a Hiranyakashipu, or as I often joke, just dealing with someone who gives a feedback is itself, grounds for the friendship being over. Especially if he does it in a public arena or something, it kind of embarrasses you a little bit. The friendship is off. So this is not something that could be. This is one who has given himself over to that reality, having received it from the Guru. He is surrendered to that. Then he's able to have this real vision of equality. You have vision of equality? You have vision of equality? No, it's a very high level, right? You have vision of equality? So not so easy. So next verse, continuing on about the glories of this person. Ihaiva jitta sargo yesham samye stitam manaha nirdosham hisamam brahma tasman brahmanite stita. So those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity, yesham samye stitamana, have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. Ihaiva jitta sarga. They are flawless like Brahman. Nirdosha hisamam Brahman. So these persons whose minds are fixed in this equality that we've just heard about, they've conquered Jitta Sarga, they've conquered birth and death. Because essentially, why does one remain bound by birth and death? Because we are preoccupied with inequality. Right? We're preoccupied with the different modes of nature and how they're presenting themselves to us. Right? So modes of nature presents itself to us as a cheesecake. This is very nice. It presents itself to us as a father who didn't love us properly. This is not very nice. And as we're looking at all these differences in nature and becoming absorbed in those differences, our mind becomes fully filled up with that stuff. And remember, as we just quoted this verse also, yam yam bap vismaram bap, whatever nature you remember at the time of death. So our minds, we spend our whole life preoccupied with differences, inequality in the material world. This is called this Rajaguna. So naturally, your mind is filled up with that at the time of death, so you remain bound in the material world. But this person, he has conquered birth and death because he's situated in equality. He only sees that one underlying reality behind all the differences that are at play. That's a very powerful position. So nirdosham hisamam Brahman. He is flawless. He is the same as Brahman. He is flawless. So this is what it means to be flawless. That in all situations, you see only that underlying reality, not giving much importance to the external thing. Of course, when you have to interact with it conventionally, there has to be practical activity. So Arjuna, he is also situated in equality as he's shooting the arrows. He's only seeing that one underlying reality and shooting arrows because that is his particular duty. So that doesn't mean you don't have to act, but what is your state of mind though? So when we shoot arrows, at our, first of all, we see enemy. That is itself the proof. That's why we shoot the arrow. We shoot the arrow because we see enemy. Our Judah is shooting the arrow because it's his duty, because Christians ultimately asked him to do so. When we shoot the arrows because we see enemy, that itself means you're bound by nature. So he's shooting arrow also, but he conquered birth and death. He follows like Brahman because he sees only one reality underpinning the apparent variety before us. Tasma Brahmani Testita. So therefore he is fixed in Brahman. Can you imagine? It's very interesting inner life of a person. Of course, in devotional sense, it translates as seeing Krishna's hand everywhere, seeing Krishna. Just the other day, we were giving a class about Prahlad Maharaj being embraced by the arms of Govinda at every moment. So he's seeing that everywhere he goes, that reality. Can you imagine, same scenario, the dead throwing you off the top of the mountain, you're just like, because you just see Govinda is embracing you everywhere. Or the other story that I often like to tell is with Haridas Thakur being beat and 22 marketplaces. In one marketplace was enough to kill any normal person. And they were beating him so hard. The Chaitanya Bhagavat describes how the people to see that, they were just feeling so much bad because it's like, how they're beating him so hard. And Haridas Thakur was just he was just chatting. Can you imagine? So just try to picture that. So you like beating the mess out of someone, like trying to kill them. And you're like, can you imagine? And then maybe he just bust out into a bhajan or something. He's just fixed in ecstasy because he's seeing only one reality behind everything. Can you imagine? I mean, very beautiful. Prahlad Maharaj, Tvavirya Gayana Mahamrita Magna Chitta. My conscience is absorbed in singing the glories of the Lord. Can you imagine someone comes up to you, like slap such a person and says, Hare? They themselves become bewildered. What's going on? Only one reality. Of course, how this, everyone always talks about, well, how does that play out externally? The only reason we ask that sort of question is because we are ourselves situated in another awareness. So it's hard for us to relate to this level of awareness. But there it is. Na prahirshat priyam prapya, no dvijat prapya chapriyam, stira bhudir asamudo, brahmavit brahmanisita. So they're carrying on about the character of such a person, his inner life. He is stira buddhi, his intelligence is fixed. Asamudo, he is without bewilderment. Bewilderment only comes because of identifying with the body, specifically the mind. That's why you get bewildered. If we didn't identify with the mind, just like, for example, waking up in the morning, duty is go to Mangalarti for those of us who live in the building. But we get bewildered in the morning time, specifically when the alarm clock goes off. We get bewildered. Should I do it? Should I not do it? Well, yesterday I did stay up until this time, and technically I should get this amount of sleep according to Ayurveda. And you can start pulling up the heart, all sorts of things. And, so-and-so also doesn't come, and he's kind of like the leader. Like that, you just sit there for 20 minutes. The 20 minutes you're sitting there having deep conversation with the mind. You could have got up, took a bath, got a Mangala to enjoy the ecstasy, and bewilderment, completely bewildered, because identifying with the mind. So asamudho is that identifying with the mind. Brahmavit, he's the knower of Brahman. So na prahirshat priyam prapya, no dvijat prapya chapriyam. So when there's some dear situation, he doesn't become super elated. And when there's some not dear situation, he does not become disturbed. Like this morning, I couldn't get sleep. I've been having a very hard time sleeping. Woke up at 1 o'clock. I was furious. And I tried to go back to sleep. I couldn't get back to sleep for an hour and a half. So I finally at 2:45, I got up. I was like, forget it. I'm just gonna take a bath and go and chant japa. And then when I went to the bathroom, I normally try to take a cold bath in the morning, but I was like so angry. I said, maybe take a hot bath. Maybe that'll calm me down. Maybe I'll get tired by doing that. So I turned the hot water valve on, and no hot water was coming out. And I was like, ah, ah. That was an apriya, means a not very welcome situation, and I was disturbed. So I'm not Brahmavid. I mean, I know a little bit about Bhagavad-Gita, but got some ways to go to become Brahmavid. So Brahmavid, when this sort of not welcome situation comes, not disturbed. Some welcome situation comes, he doesn't develop desire for more of that, rejoicing in it. So he's situated in Brahman. So there's 2 more verses here, then we'll stop. Very nice verse. Bhaya sparsheshva saktatma vinda tyatmani yasukam sa brahma yoga yuktatma sukam akshayam ashnute. So he is asaktatma, means he is detached from bhaya sparsha. Bhaya means external, and sparsha refers to, means touch. It means to touch the external things, the sense objects. He is not attached to that. That deserves a trophy. We just gloss over these phrases very fast, but it's profound. He's not attached to touching the external objects. The world of sensual enjoyment. Vindati atmani yasukam. This is because he finds his happiness within. Of course, he's experiencing his own self. His contemplations are also filled with the higher reality, and he finds satisfaction and joy from that. Sa Brahma Yoga Yuktatma. So his Atma is in communion with the Brahman, Brahma Yoga. Our Acharya said this means the Supreme Lord. Sukam Akshayam Ashnute. So he enjoys unlimited happiness. This is happy life. Versus the other guy, well, this is still a comment about his life, but it indicates the other guy. We happen to be the other guy. It's very interesting, just as an aside. I don't know so much about the Gita, but I know in the Bhagavatam, this word other is always used so much. It always cracks me up. They will glorify the devotees, and then they say, and then there are the others. I love that because it sounds so sectarian. They're always like, "We're not sectarian," but Bhagavatam is always saying all over the place. They'll glorify the devotee 5, 7 verses, glorifying the devotees, and then they will say, and then there are the others. Oh, I love it. The others. The others. So we are a part of the others category. So Krishna in verse 22 is not exactly talking about the others. He's still commenting about the inner life of this yogi, but he is in the others are indicated. They're not enjoying within; their enjoyment is without. Yehi sansparsha jab hoga dukkha yonaya evate adyantavanta konteya nalteshu ramate buddha. So sansparsha jab hoga. Bhoga means enjoyment that is born of touching sense objects. So eating that cheesecake, getting that hot shower, whatever. We have hearing that certain music, whatever it is. We all got our little objects that are, appalling to others, but very nice for us. Just like sometimes when you hear that certain friends like certain music, you're just appalled. How could they like that? And they hear your music, they're also appalled because we have different senses, but we all attach to sense objects. So the enjoyment that arises from sense object, dukkha yonaya evate, that is the womb. You can say that is the womb in which the child of dukkha takes birth. That is the womb. So senses contacting sense object, that is a womb. And out comes the child. The child of dukkha. That is where suffering comes. Of course, in the very first moments of contact, you don't think like that. You think this is very nice. Cheesecake, you eat it 1 piece. Oh, this is very 2 pieces. 3, 4. And then midnight. But usually because the space in between Usually because the space in between enjoyment and the suffering, there's a break in between. So you don't always make the connection. You know you had 4 pieces of cheesecake and now you're vomiting later on in the morning. You're like, I wonder why that happened. Yeah, of course, now with cheesecake that's a little bit easier. But with certain types of enjoyments, the break is far between. So you don't make the connect that because of trying to enjoy here, I'm suffering here. And of course, when this is happening over lifetimes, when you're receiving the fruits of karma, you certainly cannot make the connection. So Krishna is helping us understand the principle that when you try to go for enjoyment, that is a moment in which suffering is coming out. And what is the main suffering? Adhyantavanta kontaya. It has a beginning and an end. That is the main suffering. Anything that has to be, of course, there's the type of suffering that's patent to us, to our experience. But there's another type of suffering when you get what you want and it gives you pleasure. That is actually gives a deeper suffering. Because when it gives pleasure, you will get attached more profoundly. And then adhyantavanta kontaya. Then when it manifests its in nature, unto nature, its conclusion, because you have more profound attachment because it was giving pleasure, so your suffering has to be more now. So even the pleasure that comes is a trap. I used to always call it a setup. I used to say happiness is a setup. Just like, when we were children, well, for those of us who grew up with daddies in America, none of us sit here. At least we've seen enough movies where such a thing exists. That sometimes the father will put like for learning baseball, he'll put like this, what do you call it, like a tee? I think they call it like a tee, right? And you just place the ball on top of it, and then the kid can just take an easy swing at the ball. So pleasure derived from sense gratification, and the attachment that follows that is just like that tee. It's just a setup. And then the child, the duper comes with that bat. Oh, this is gonna be real easy. And he just takes a swing. So we don't always think about it like that, but when you get your desires satisfied, then that is creating a deeper suffering actually than just the one that is obvious suffering to us in the very beginning. Now, Teshu Namate Buddha, those who are Buddha, the person we're hearing about, the learned, enlightened person, he does not take pleasure in such things. So that's because his inner life is very nice. There are a few other verses describing his inner life, so we'll have to take it up on Monday and finish the chapter. But before we go, are there any questions, comments? I got a few questions. I have some questions about this that you can discuss briefly. Yes, David.
I have a comment. I think I learned this at the teachings of Lord Chaitanya.
Okay.
When death is approaching, if one can remember to call out Lord Narayana, then you automatically succeed in breaking the cycle of rebirth or samsara.
Yes.
I wish I could remember. It might have been the Gita.
That is okay. So
the Srimad Bhagavad-Gita.
Yeah. So if you can chant the holy name at the time of death, then you can. Narayana. Yes.
Narayana.
So the holy names of Krishna, whether it's Narayana or it's Krishna, it can be any holy name of the Lord. So this is a teaching.
Okay.
So Narayana is in the case of Ajamil's story, it's being told. He said the name Narayana at the time of death. But it can be any name of Krishna.
Okay.
So if he says the name, then you can be saved from the ropes of death, the rope carriers who come and take your soul to hell. So the problem is, so it sounds very nice. Okay, I'll just do that then. I'll live a nice life of enjoyment, and at the time of death, Narayana. And when the Yamadutas are coming up, he was like, I got Narayana. Y'all can't get me. Unfortunately, this verse is coming. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tajante kalevanam tantadi evaiti konteya. So that's bhava bhavita. The problem is that our previous thought informs the next thought. And it goes on like this throughout life. Sadata bhava bhavita. So whatever your mental culture is throughout your life, that will be your mental culture at the time of death.
Right.
I promise you, one time I was in India. This is my first trip to India. And we had gone to Juhu Ratha Yatra in Mumbai. And me and two other devotee friends, brahmacharis, We were in the car, and you know how it is in India, driving. It's a very mystical thing, actually. As they've often joked, just by seeing the driving in India, people can come to believe in God. That there must be a God. Otherwise, how this thing is going on? So we were driving in Mumbai, and at one point, you know how the cars have like a kind of like a showdown? Who's gonna turn first, like at the last minute, you know? It's like a showdown. And then finally, like, and you as a passenger in the back are like, so it was like a showdown happened, and our car, we were in a rickshaw, kind of at the very last minute turn. And the rickshaw almost just like toppled over, you know? We would have been, our skulls would have been smashed on the pavement, like we would have been finished. So we all had our hands in the beanbag. And when the car kind of like went up in the air, we were, you know, I said a curse word, I think. You know, one of the other devotees, he started screaming. He was like, ah! And then another devotee was just like looking, frightened. He didn't say anything. So somehow by Krishna's grace, the car went back down. And so there was like a moment of silence. And then what God brother Jai Sachinanda, he after like a minute or two of silence, he was like, well, we failed that test. We failed that test.
Oh, right.
And we all started having a very nice laugh about it because we realized that remembering Krishna at the time of death is not even as easy as having the hand in the bead bag, chanting the holy name. And then all of a sudden we're confronted with a situation that might be death, and we're not able to think of Krishna. The hand is in the bead bag. It was like just drop the holy name and take shelter of a curse word. So that means that one's life of devotional absorption has to be profound. Then certainly at the time of death, you'll remember the Lord, the holy name, and like this, you can be safe from the ropes of death. But don't think you can get out of it without living a life of Krishna consciousness. Just like some people think that 50 years I'll be a nonsense. When I'm 50, then I'll be spiritual. But after that, you'll have 50 years of nonsense conditionings that will keep you from being spiritual. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj recommends that you start as soon as possible, while the body is stout and strong and not embarrassed by dwindling. That is the specific language he uses, translated by Prabhupada. So, thank you for that. So, you know, being young and starting spiritual life is very auspicious, Abhinav. You take seriously. You chant sometimes. I see you singing here very nicely. And sometimes you read Bhagavad-Gita also. Nice. And sometimes you chant japa occasionally. So as you get older, never forget it. You should do more and more and more of that. You have a good opportunity. Many of us started a little bit later. I started when I was 18. Many of us started 20. Some started much later than that. And we have all those years of conditioning that makes it very challenging for us. Of course, there's all hope, but that is the reality. Okay, Hariom Tat Sat. Thanks a lot. Someone can share one comment. I usually like to take 2 reflections before I end the class. Someone can share one thing. Sid.
I think I've written down it would be nice to have a mindset of equality.
Yes. But how do you understand equality?
That everyone, everything is just supreme.
Yes. Saying the supreme behind everything for the soul. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Nice.
Immediately you'll be protected from so much nonsense just because you see that way. Nice. One other reflection? Yes. The showdown. That's it. You remember the showdown, okay? Yes, that is a nice, scary experience. Anything else, Daniel? You can share at one point. Let's see if you can.
I'm trying to find the verse, but Prabhupada was talking about Krishna's not having attraction or hatred. And he said that a realized person also
Yeah.
And the attraction really tripped me up because
Yes.
when I have attraction, I don't, unless it's, very obvious that it's not good for my spiritual life. If I'm attracted to someone, I think, well,
It must be
wrong with that?
beautiful.
Actually,
What's the
I think
problem?
it's the main thing what makes us suffer is just the taste
Yeah.
of the object. It's not like you enjoy the cake and then you just throw up, but the taste you have makes you suffer more broader sense because of that taste you get birth again and you suffer the lifetime again.
Yeah.
You suffer the birth, disease, and old age.
Yeah. Yeah, the taste that you get from the object creates the impression that this is very nice. And that impression is your enemy. That impression is the main enemy. Just like I seen that, I was actually talking about this, or thinking about this at least, with how many of us, especially, it's a room full of men here, but many of us young men, got involved with very unfavorable things at a very young age. And now trying to correct that as older men is very difficult because imprint has come that is very nice. Even though by all empirical facts, even your own life experience of suffering tells you this is a very horrible thing, the mind is now convinced that this is a very nice thing. And that impression just drags down no matter, even if you don't want to do it, it just drags and drags and drags and drags. So yes, this is the main reason why the sensual enjoyment, the attraction part particularly is more, at least with suffering, you don't get that sort of imprint that this is very nice. It's like, I'm saying, wait. Well, the attraction thing or that taste comes up and that imprint comes, and that's the main thing keeping us bound in this
These
world.
days, people even like suffering. There's like certain group that.
Yeah, there's a certain term for that also. They're called masochistic. Huh? Yeah, masochist. But that for them is happiness in their mind. It's just a warped Tom and Goon sort of thing going on. But in their mind, the concept is it gives happiness. Just like the soul in a pig's body, with a pig's mind, thinks eating a stool is very nice. If you give them the hot lasagna from David's kitchen, they're like, what is this nonsense? But you give them some fresh stool out of the toilet bowl, they're like, jive, whoo, nectar. So the mind is a very deadly enemy. To make it a friend is not a joke. Therefore, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, one of our preceptors, he said, gotta beat it regularly. Not regularly, daily, hourly, moment to moment, ideally. Just tell it shut up and get in line. Hariom Tat Sat, thanks a lot. We're gonna stop here for now. We'll finish the chapter on Monday, later online. I do.